Welcome to another IELTS essay correction, and the student has again sent a structure. Okay, this is not a complete question, not a complete answer. This is a structure of the question. Okay. Now, the question is the gap between the rich and the poor is becoming wider. Discuss effects and solutions. So you have to mention about the gap. You have to discuss the gap between the rich and the poor. What are the effects? What are the positive or negative consequences? What are the positive or negative consequences? And you have to mention the solutions. So it is primarily about negative consequences since you have to mention the solutions. Okay. So what should be the structure before we proceed to the answer? There should be an introduction. Let me write over here an introduction. Introduction should ideally be about 3 to 4 sentences long. It should mention the effects as well as the solutions that you plan to discuss in the body paragraphs. So about 50 words long, that is more than enough. Okay. Followed by body paragraph 1, which is about the effects. So you have to discuss the effects that you mention in the introduction. Okay. Body paragraph 2 should be about solutions. You have to discuss the solutions you have mentioned in the introduction. And finally, it's the conclusion, which is again about 3 to 4 sentences, 2 to 3 sentences, about 50 words, 40 to 50 words, that's sufficient. Okay. So now this is the structure. She has not sent the complete body paragraphs. She has sent the structures to check whether the ideas are fine and whether they are well explained. So these are just the ideas. These are not the actual body paragraphs that she will write in the exam. This is the introduction and finally the conclusion. Okay. Let us read the introduction. The widening gap between the rich and the poor is an issue of grave concern. Now, this is an opening sentence, and I think this is a well-written sentence since she touches the statement. This is the statement, the question statement. Since it closely conforms to the question statement, this is a well-written one. She has mentioned the widening gap. Here it is mentioning the gap is becoming wider, and she has expressed concern about it. Okay, so before writing the effects, she has mentioned it's an issue of grave concern. This is something positive. She has done a really good job. Since this can lead to increase in crime, the first negative effect, and less prosperous society, the second negative effect. Okay, so she has mentioned two negative effects. Crime increases crime and society is less prosperous. So this is well written. She has mentioned the effects and ideally these effects should be discussed in the body paragraph 1. Okay. However, some viable measures can be taken to ameliorate the situation. Now this viable measures to ameliorate the situation, this is the solution component. You are trying to pacify the situation, reduce the intensity of the negative aspects. That's ameliorating the situation. She has asked a question, should I mention the solutions here as well? Of course you should. Please mention the solutions. Okay. If you do that, that's a better introduction. Body paragraph 1. The first point is rise in crime by poor people to fulfill their needs and desires. So this is the idea. The first sentence is the idea. And this is idea 1. So in body paragraph 1, we can comfortably state that idea 1 is clearly mentioned and it is related to crime. Okay, the first one mentioned in the introduction, that's idea 1, and it is mentioned as rise in crime by poor people to fulfill needs and desires. Now remember, this is not a complete sentence. She is merely mentioning the ideas and checking whether the ideas and explanations are fine. Okay. Now the explanation begins from here. Poor may get envy of the rich. Now, you never get envy. You are envious of someone. You never get envy. This is a mistake. Envy can be used in two forms. In fact, if we say X envies Y or X envy of Y. So how are these two different? Okay, here X envies Y. It means X is jealous, has the same feeling, similar feeling as to jealousy due to some achievement or due to something that Y has. Here, X envy of Y means that Y is envious of X. So this is opposite. If you write envy of, it means rich are envious of the poor. If you write poor envy the rich, in that case, the poor are envious of the rich people. They're jealous of the rich people. Okay? Of the rich wasting money on needless things. Now, needless things sounds a bit weird. Um, that is open to interpretation. Instead of mentioning needless things, you can mention about materialistic things or consumeristic items or things that people desire, okay, or expensive items. You can mention expensive items, okay, and then mention some of the expensive items such as latest cell phones, latest smartphones, diamonds, okay, jewelry. They are envious. Luxury cars, and they are wasting money on expensive items such as smartphones, diamonds, and luxury cars, and they may assume stealing. They may assume stealing or kidnapping as a right way to gain money from those who have in abundance. Um, the idea is fine. The explanation also seems to be fine. If this can be corroborated with an example, that will be much better. So, for instance, societies which are, no, here, let me write over here. Idea one is fine. Explanation, explain of idea one, that's also fine. This is one sentence. This is one sentence. Now you can mention an idea. I'm sorry, you can mention an example. Example of one in one sentence. For instance, you can talk about two countries in which in one of the countries there's high income disparity. Let me write over here. Income disparity. Or income gap. In one it's high, in another it's low. Then crime. Okay, crime. Here it's high. If there's high income disparity, the crime is high. If it's low income disparity, the crime is low. You can give an example. You can mention an example also. Name the country. For instance, here you can talk about, um, don't take it personally, you can talk about South Africa, okay, or some parts of United States of America, some parts of China. Here you can talk about Singapore, okay, Canada, or Australia, Switzerland, number of European countries over here. Canada, I'm sorry, it's North America, number of European countries you can mention. So an example would have been an excellent idea. Coming to the second point, the body paragraph 2. Okay. The society can never be a healthy place to live, even for wealthy families, where one sees people dying of hunger and not being able to pay for medical bills. Yeah, but this is an explanation. This is not the idea. Okay, the idea was, let me point it out over here. The idea was a less prosperous society. Here it is, the less prosperous society. Okay, so the less prosperous society. The idea one is not mentioned. It is not mentioned. So the student should have mentioned the idea before jumping to the explanation. However, she has explained the idea one, idea two clearly. Okay. Prosperity depends upon well-being of citizens. Now, this is what the idea is. This is the idea. So you have written explanation before the idea. The order is broken. So you should never break this order. The idea always precedes the explanation. Move from idea to explanation in this format. Don't break it, okay? Then it's fine. There are a number of things that could have been written over here, but that's not the concern today. The idea is well explained, however, the order has been broken. Solutions, body paragraph 3. Okay, so she has devoted one body paragraph to each cause or effect, the effect, and now one body paragraph to solutions by providing free education, healthcare, and food to those who are below poverty line. Of course, this is a good idea to reduce the gap, but you have to explain how this will reduce the gap. Okay, so those who are earning less, they need free education. Now, if this is free education, you can't simply write healthcare. It has to be an adjective. So, if the education is free, the healthcare, if the education, let me write over here, if the education is free, then what about healthcare? What about healthcare? It has to be affordable. Okay? And what about food? It has to be subsidized. Okay? So with the introductory sentence that governments and various organizations, non-government organizations, or even private institutions. Okay, the private institutions also play a role. Private institutions include private companies, private citizens. They can take various measures to ameliorate this situation. They can provide free education, affordable healthcare, and subsidized food. Okay. Second is reservation for underprivileged in employment. Now, you can substantiate the solutions with examples. So the student has mentioned solution 1 and solution 2. If she can substantiate this with an example, that will be perfect. Okay, example from her country. The example varies from one country to another, but in general, a lot of countries are providing reservation for underprivileged people on the basis of economic background, and she can give example of India. Okay, but in every country there must be some similar policy or a government program for healthcare. Even private institutions these days, healthcare. Let me write over here. Those who are following the newspapers, healthcare is a sector in the United States in which Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, um, I guess it's Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, pardon the spellings, and I guess Jeff Bezos of Amazon. They have also entered. Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Let me write over here Buffett. Okay. So healthcare, private people have entered into it, and they are decided to provide affordable healthcare to American citizens, to United States of America citizens. Okay. There are a number of examples that you can write to substantiate your answer. Conclusion, negative consequences of rich-poor disparity range from increasing crime rate to socially unstable nation. That's well written, socially unstable. So it leads to social instability. Could have mentioned social instability. Nevertheless, the government can mitigate the problem by providing free amenities or subsidized amenities, not necessarily free, subsidized amenities and special quotas while employing less privilege. So the conclusion is fine, could have been made better, but there are larger points of concern over here. An example, particularly, and maintaining the right order of idea and explanation. The idea one was very well expressed. Again, the example is missing. So this answer is devoid of examples, and with enough examples, this could have been an excellent response. So if you want to ask any question, you can write in the comments box below or email me at eltec IELTS@gmail.com or visit my website. There's a link below this video. It's eltecenglish.com. Thank you for watching.